So I was doing some research for this channel and I found something that was really alarming to me and something I've never even considered with bipolar disorder. I think it's important enough actually to make a video and get this information out there. So the death rate from heart attacks of people who are bipolar and not treating their depression is actually twice that of people the same age who aren't bipolar. I mean, holy crap. Now, here's why, or at least one of the big contributing factors. And I encourage you to look this up online yourself because there's a lot of information and research on this. A really big consequence to our health if bipolar disorder goes untreated is an extreme increase of a certain stress hormone called cortisol in our bodies. Now, stay with me here. For those of you who don't know, cortisol is a natural occurring hormone released from the adrenal gland and aids in the whole fight or flight response, basically. And additionally, it also helps regulate things like our blood pressure, metabolism, and even our immune system response. However, it's also the #1 hormone attributed to experiencing stress. So those of us who go through extreme or really prolonged periods of depression can actually build up toxic levels of cortisol in our bodies. And what it can do is actually cause damage to the interior walls of blood vessels. And this, of course, in turn can contribute to artery disease, heart disease, and an increase in the chances of even having a stroke. Now, I mentioned immune system function with cortisol. Here's another not fun fact that I found out that we should consider. The rate of death caused by an infectious disease is actually 2 to 3 times greater with people who go through long periods of untreated severe depression. Stress and depression for long periods of time literally weakens our body's ability to fight disease. Anyone else watching this stress themselves out so much that they get sick? I've done it so many times I literally can't even remember anymore. And another risk I found out of high cortisol in bipolar patients was a decrease in growth hormone, which can contribute to our chances of getting osteoporosis. Now, we've all heard that stress is a killer, right? I mean, I've heard that my entire life. People have told me that my whole life, but I've never really looked into the actual evidence of specifically why. And me being bipolar, I've got to say that I go through a lot of manic or depressive-induced stress. Many of us do, but awareness and education is the first step towards changing things, right? Now, both negative and positive stress activates several hormonal and nervous system responses. Excessive cortisol can also majorly interfere with our sleep, especially the deep sleep that we all desire. You ever notice how it can be impossible to sleep when you're stressing out over something? Now, it can be even good stress, like getting married or buying a house. I guess you'd call that good stress or positive stimulation. The brain doesn't know the difference. All it knows is that you're stressed and it responds accordingly. And many times this disruption in our sleep combined with unnatural amounts of cortisol can be major triggers for mania and depression. In 2014, there were researchers from Sweden that determined bipolar individuals who have low or high levels of cortisol were 2 times more likely to experience depression than people with normal levels. And it's a catch-22 because long-term depression that isn't treated also increases these abnormal levels. So then they decided to conduct a survey and found that people claiming to experience a low quality of life were 6 times more common with low levels of cortisol and 5 times more common with high levels. In a normal brain, when people experience stress, it reacts kind of like the shocks in a car and absorbs or adapts basically better to the situation. And it doesn't take quite as long for it to self-regulate, so to speak. It basically returns back to normal functioning a lot faster. Now, for those of us who are bipolar, our brains react completely differently. When we experience stress, our minds can simply lose the ability to self-regulate these chemicals. And the result is usually horrible mood swings while the brain is desperately trying to adjust and it just can't. Now, studies show on CT scans and MRIs that a bipolar brain is simply built differently and reacts in abnormal ways. I never knew or even thought about this kind of stuff, and don't take my word for it. Like I said, seriously, dig into it and research this stuff for yourself. I didn't make it up. Treating our bipolar disorder with medications and other methods is not only preventing the disastrous mood swings that we go through in the first place, but it's lowering our risks for a slew of other diseases as well. Now, we can't just pop a pill and expect it all to go away. Meds are just a small part of a comprehensive treatment program. Another aspect that's equally important is training ourselves to recognize triggers, even if they're subtle. So this way we can intercept a crash before it begins and our brains start losing the ability to control the situation. For many years, I thought that as long as I just don't forget to take my meds, it'll all be better. Or if I started crashing, I'd think, well, the meds just aren't working anymore. When the truth is, it takes hitting bipolar from many different angles to actually keep it in check. Now, it's obvious that people with bipolar disorder experience a lot of chronic stress, not only from the depression, from the stress that mania puts on our bodies and minds also. Many psychologists are now suggesting that effective treatment of bipolar disorder should also include some kind of specific effort to regulate stress in our lives, or possibly even monitoring our levels of cortisol, which I think is really interesting. I never thought of this. Anyways, I was a little surprised to hear all this, and I wanted to make sure that I shared the information with my fellow polar warriors on this channel. I hope you found it at least interesting, and maybe start thinking of some ways to decrease your own levels of stress. It's something that we really need to take seriously, considering how different our bodies and our brains react to stress compared to most people. Now, this isn't just common knowledge information, so please share this video because I sure didn't know this information. And I think it's really important for us to think about when stress or depression starts getting the better of us. This is just basically another example of how important it is to get proper treatment before even more irreversible damage is done to our minds and bodies. Anyways, thank you so much for spending this time with me, and please let me know what you think down below in the comments. I'd love to know. There's going to be lots more videos like this on Polar Warriors, and I don't want you to miss out on some good information, so consider subscribing. Become a member of the Polar Warrior Club. It really does motivate me to keep making these videos. I don't make a dime doing it. I do it because I love helping other people and for the bipolar community. It's just really nice to know that people support what I'm doing. So take care, be well, stay peaceful, and hope to see you back here again sometime.